What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Best RPG, the series where we play through RPGs and then we review them, we rank them in our special tier list that we've created just for the series. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about The Outer Worlds 2, which I've just completed. And to let you know beforehand, I was a big fan of the first Outer Worlds game. I love some of the old school Obsidian games as well. Obviously, creator of one of my favorite games of all time, Fallout New Vegas. So I was excited for the second Outer Worlds game. And just as a heads up, I was a bit let down, but not too much. I didn't go in expecting this would be a 10 out of 10 RPG. I'll be honest with you. The expectations weren't there. The Outer Worlds 1 had its flaws. The Outer Worlds 2 did improve on some flaws, but at the end of the day, it still, to me, had some flaws that kind of ruined the experience at certain points. Now, let's get into it. Let's talk about it. The experience of the Outer Worlds. So basically, little spoiler here. I'm just gonna go through the story real quick, whatever happens in a quick manner. I don't want to jump into deep on this story. There will be, as always, the gameplay video part of the series and then this review, which actually the review part is new. I want to keep it separate, make it easier for the people. We'll have the first part, which will be the playthrough, which is usually a longer video, which is a full playthrough of the games, and then we'll go back and we'll do this where we talk about the games, review the games, kind of give my thoughts on it, and just give you guys a quick summary of the game. So basically, the game starts off with yourself, a member of the Earth Directorate, on a mission to go to a station which is called Horizon Point. Now, you have a member of the Earth Directorate called De Vries. She works with someone else in the background, and you go through the station, and it basically ends up in De Vries betraying you and blowing up the whole station, which that you survive by escaping in an escape pod. De Vries escapes in an escape pod and survives, and one of your original crew members survives as well. He's the one who actually then rescues you, and from that point, basically your mission is to hunt down De Vries. You hunt her down all over the galaxy, basically. That's kind of like the first half of the game. You hunt her down, and the first planet you go to, which is a planet run over from Anti's Choice. They basically took over the planet, and that's one of the factions that you have in the game, one of them being Anti's Choice, which was Spacer's Choice in the first game, and it kind of combined with Anti-Cleo, and now it made Anti's Choice. So you have that as one of the factions. They're basically the big corporation. Then you have the Protectorate, which kind of remind me of a certain political side from way back when, and also the First Order in Star Wars. They like freaking hang people in like coffins and stuff. They're really messed up. They have this thing that they use, which is called mental refreshment, where they, delete the brains of the people. They refresh them. So what happens with that is the Protectorate are in charge of the station at the start of Horizon Point. Now, some of the other factions in the game is Sub Rosa. They're not that important to the story. They exist on the side. They are basically like the criminal underbelly. They're trying to like sell secret information for a profit, that type of deal. Then you have the Order, which they basically try to predict the future with math. That's like the whole gimmick. They believe in predicting the future by calculating it. And those are basically the main factions that kind of go at each other. Again, Sub Rosa, they're kind of to the side. They don't really have anything to do with the main story. They pop up here and there, but they're not as important. Auntie's Choice, Protectorate, and the Order are basically the three choices you make throughout the story. Now, it's really reminiscent of Fallout New Vegas in some ways, especially when we get to the end of the story. I'll take you through the story. Now, on our hunt of Devries, you go to Fairfield. As I mentioned earlier, it's been taken over by Anti's Choice. Protectorate is also on that planet. None of the Order, by the way. And there's a station there, the Vox Relay, which you're basically looking for Devries. She sends it into self-destruct mode, and it basically will be sent to Fairfield to wipe out everyone there. But you can change it to basically go into another city, which would have been Protectorate run. And I think the first planet as like a tutorial bit is actually pretty cool. The only problem I had on the first planet was the Vox Relay, because the final boss of the Vox Relay, basically the guy who's in charge of it, is quite hard to take down if you're not really equipped for it, like I was. So I did take a long time to actually beat him. You do that, you get one of the best weapons, which has pretty much been my weapon from that point on till the end of the story. Now, how I was playing, I was doing a stealthy sniper build, which is easy with the skill tree, and that's what I want to get into next. You know, we covered the first planet, let's get into the skill tree now. Yeah, I don't like the skill tree of this game and the skill checks of this game, because the skill checks aren't as obvious in this game. You would think you have a speech skill, you would think that there will be a lot of speech checks. But no, that's where the game baits you. And that's like one of the most annoying parts, because it constantly bothered me during my playthrough. You need like some of the other stats, engineering, observation, science, you don't need the speech check as often as you have one of the other skill checks in conversation. Hacking, all of that stuff is way more important than actually leveling speech, which for someone who plays, you know, a bunch of other RPGs, I would think like, oh yeah, speech check, you know, I need speech skills. No, you rarely need the speech skill. It's quite frustrating actually. So my main skills I actually put points into were sneak and guns. But you have, like with sneak, you do actually have some options, which is fun. Some dialogue options, teasing at, you know, people, telling them, I'm gonna steal your stuff if you don't tell me that. You know, those types of dialogues. But all in all, I was just really annoyed because of the fact that I put points into speech and it's just freaking useless throughout the whole game. You rarely need it. Then the next point is you have traits, and some of them get used in dialogue as well. We picked the brilliant trait, which can be used in dialogue from time to time. Little did I know that the brawny trait was going to be so important. To anyone who plays the Outer Worlds 2, you for some reason need to have the brawny trait. You want to know why you need to have it? Because the brawny trait opens up jammed doors. You know, you're strong, you can open up jammed doors. There are so many jammed doors in this game that I wasn't able to open up because I didn't pick brawny. It isn't only brawny, there's also one skill you need to do. I don't remember off the top of my head what the skill is, because I'll be honest with you, at some point I just stopped even looking at the jammed doors because I was like, I don't have brawny. What's the point? It just gets really frustrating when you're trying to actually play through the RPG and then every time you're just blocked off, especially like with some missions, there's like some speech skill checks and they're related, again, not to speech, but to certain skills, so certain other skills, and you can't continue. And I was just like constantly getting frustrated by the way I was like locked into my character, and like I wasn't hindered from continuing the story, but I was like gated from certain choices. Now I'm not saying in any way that it's still an RPG. It's like you're walking on a tightrope with RPGs, right? You want that freedom. You want to be able to play it in different ways. You want to have that choice of, oh, I built my character this way, so I got to pick these choices. Whereas I didn't pick that stuff, so I didn't get to do this, so I'll play it again. I don't know why it bothered me so much. This isn't going to be a rant about the speech skill for the next, 20 minutes. minutes. So we'll move on from that to something else you can skill up, which is your companions. We have a list of companions here. The thing is with the companions from Outer Worlds 2, they did the thing of every single one kind of represents a faction in the game. Now, there's one faction I didn't really mention, which one of our companions actually belongs to. Now, you can also level up your companions, and you can basically level up their skills. You can level up their like armor and weapon damage. The thing is, you don't have, and this is a part I always like, you don't have the ability to customize the weapons you use on your companions because of that, because you level their certain weapon and you don't have armor customization. And I'm a person, I like to customize my companions. They do change up the armor sets of the characters a little bit, and I like that, but there's just something about picking an armor set for your companion, picking a weapon you think fits well with your companion. And at the end of the day, you know, companions are an extension of your character. Let's get into the companions though. So the first ones you meet are going to be Valerie, which is a droid. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of droid companions, since no droid companion is ever going to top HK47. So what's the point, you know? Why even try? The first one that obviously you start with is going to be Niles. He's also part of the Earth Directorate. He's basically your companion from the start. Like he's with you in the first mission. He barely survives the situation on Horizon Station, and he's the one who actually finds you. He actually saves you. He basically finds you in space, picks you up on your ship, and then you go on this journey with him. His big whole motivation is basically just get revenge on De Vries. That's his plot. I don't know. Niles didn't really do it for me. The one that I liked the most was next up though, and it is Inez, who's a former anti-choice soldier who was part of the grafting program. And what you do for her, and like her first quest line is obviously trying to find new grafted parts, so you know she improves. Inez to me showcases one of the first problems I have with the companions, and it'll come back to bite us with another one later on. So the one that it comes back to bite us with is Tristan. Tristan you find a bit later on in the story on the free market, which is a space station basically. It's operated by Sub Rosa mainly, and as it says, it's a free market. It's just a bunch of stores. Now, Tristan, part of the Protectorate, has its own beliefs. Same thing as Inez. They will both witness horrendous things that their factions do and still believe in them, believe in the faction. They will literally get turned on by their faction and they still believe in either Anti's Choice or the Protectorate. And it's so annoying. You can kind of get them to turn away from those two factions, but as soon as you murder someone in said faction, they get mad at you. Now, Tristan did leave the team, which leads to another problem down the road, because at the end of the game you have all these, like a good old slideshow from, you know, Fallout has them as well. It's always an easy reference, taking it back to Fallout New Vegas, but you have this slideshow with like the companions, and we completed Tristan's quest line, and at the end of the game, because Tristan has left the team, it acted like he was never part of the team. We didn't complete his quest line, nothing happened. We know what happened. And they specifically say, he still doesn't have a clue what happened to and you're sitting there like, no, he does. It's like the little details that make the whole picture, and if that little detail's off, it kind of tears down the picture by a bit. It's just the little things, but that's what sticks with you. Okay, so that's also Tristan introduced for you guys. Next up was Azar. Azar is part of the faction that I didn't name yet, which is the Glorious Dawn. They're basically cultists. They're really into murder, and they're really into the rifts. They appeared when Horizon point blew up, creating this rift disaster that we also have going on in the background, which we need to take care of. Got the Reese to hunt and then somehow try and figure out how to close rifts. It's probably between Inez, Azure, and the one that I'm gonna get to next, the last one we're gonna get to when it comes to my favorite companions. Last companion is Marisol. She is part of a special group inside of the Order. Marisol in general, I really enjoyed as a companion. She's more of, the elder lady you have in certain RPGs. I couldn't pick. I mean, Inez to me is number one because I like the grafting part so much. And then I don't know, it's probably Azure as my second favorite. And then the third favorite has to be Marisol. Back to the story, since we've moved on to Golden Ridge. So basically, when you're in Golden Ridge, you go up to the Order's base. There you actually find out there's a monastery which is taken over by DeVries and her troops. Now, her troops are being led by Seer Wiley. Now, the Seer are the people from the Order that can see into the future, as the name says. They're basically in charge of calculating things and, telling people the future. Now he takes it over. We go in there, we waltz in there, we'll talk him down because you can actually talk him down. And then you figure out there are peace talks going on between the Order and Auntie's Choice. And De Vries is actually trying to take those peace talks down. She's trying to shoot both of the factions and basically end the peace talks. As soon as we hear that, we obviously make our way to said space station where the peace talks are going on. And you make your way up, you go to De Vries, you talk to her, because you can talk to her. Like, it's another choice of, do you just shoot your way through or do you actually talk your way through it? And you can talk her down. And as soon as that happens, basically the rift just kind of decides to explode. There's like a big rift explosion. The space station basically also gets like blown to bits, but no one really, no one of importance dies. And you kind of get the acknowledgement from both sides, from Auntie's Choice, from the Order, that you have stopped them from dying, which is nice. So basically that is the end part to the Vries quest, like to the Vries story part, which I like the game until then, like the whole story. After that, you have the choice of either trying to get the Auntie's Choice in Order to work together for the rest of the game, or you'll work with one of the two, either Auntie's Choice or the Order. Now, what you need to do next is there's a planet called Cloister, which also has the main base of the Order, which has the presiding bishop, which is the leader of the whole group. And on that planet, there's a place called the Archive, which helps you decipher rift data. And that one is unfortunately taken over by the Protectorate. So your mission is to get help from either Auntie's Choice or the Order to try and take down the Archive, or take back the Archive. Now, I'm gonna get into some more spoilery stuff here. We're gonna talk about the rest and the end of the story here, so be warned for that, guys. Here's what happens. Basically, you go, you talk to both sides, you do quests for that side, do quests for that side, until they're like, yeah, we like you. Now, I didn't care for Auntie's Choice because I do not like Auntie's Choice. The thing is, you talk to the bishop. I messed up getting them to work together because I didn't have skill requirements once again. And for whatever reason, I said like, oh yeah, I'll get back to you with my choice. And the problem is that locked me out of the quest. I couldn't go back and get the Order to join me. So I just did it on my own. I just went in there, took over the Archive on my own, which is again the next moment that reminds me of Fallout New Vegas, because in the Archive it has an AI. So yeah, the AI thingy just reminds me of Mr. House. It's obviously not the same thing, or I guess Yes Man, more Yes Man than actually Mr. House, but it's like a cool thingy. So you go into the Archive, you basically have to get the Archive up to speed so the AI works properly, and then you get it to decipher the rift data, which then, things happen. And for some reason, the Protectorate managed to open up the rift where Horizon Point was in. And they basically reinstated Horizon Point again from the rift because they managed to find technology that is so big they can get a whole space station out of a rift again. Now, the thing is, it doesn't work perfectly, as all things do. You're trying to get a space rift to open up to get a whole ass space station out of it. It's never gonna work. So you go there, you have DeVries on your, like, not on your team, but DeVries will also be there if you decided to spare her up to this point. And then you basically make your way through the place, and your main mission is to take down the Protectorate boss, who obviously you can either talk to, shoot your way through it. I decided to shoot my way through it because that's just who I am. You basically just shoot your way through it, kill him, and then you try and close the rift that they've opened up from the ship controls. But the problem is you can't do it, because to close the rift, you would have to fly into the rift. Now, this is where all your decisions kind of come together at the end, because you can obviously decide, I'm gonna do it myself, or if you spared DeVries offers that she lies it in there as kind of a, I guess more on her side, it's an act of guilt. She feels so guilty for what she's done that she's like, I'm a sacrifice myself for this. If you have Azure along, as I said, member of the Glorious Dawn, they really like the rifts. You can also have her fly in there, which I think is a really cool option. So that's kind of how the game ends as well. You just let them fly into the rift. They go kaboom. No, they don't. I mean, they kind of do go kaboom. And all of the rifts close and the galaxy is saved. And you're the hero of the story once again. It's a basic space story. I mean, it would have been so basic if you actually fly into the rift yourself, but we had other people to sacrifice themselves, so we used that. But yeah, all in all, the story of the Outer Worlds 2, it's nothing too special. It was well written, I gotta say though. There were parts again that really annoyed me where we got stuck because we obviously couldn't pick either Auntie's Choice or the Order to come along with us. My problem with the decision, I think, is that throughout the story, I didn't feel like one faction was the right choice. I don't like Auntie's Choice, and that's like a personal thing. I don't like Auntie's Choice as a faction. I don't like the Order. I don't like the Protectorate. So that leaves me with doing things on my own. I mean, we did, but it always felt like, can I even do that thing? Like the game's like, oh yeah, go and do it on your own. Go figure this out. No, it's more of a, you sit there and you ask yourself, is it even possible? Can I even just like do this on my own? Am I supposed to do it? Because the game doesn't just like obviously say, yeah, if you don't want to pick one of the sides, just do it on your own. But all in all, man, it was a decent experience. As I said, it does have some flaws. I think one thing I gotta say though that I really liked about the game is the environmental storytelling. They do some really good environmental storytelling, especially like on the first planet, the place where you actually find Inez for the first time. It's like this building which has been overrun with raptidons, which are pretty much just this game's equivalent of like dinosaurs, and it feels like what Jurassic Park would feel like. It's dark, there's barely any light. You walk through there with your flashlights, you'll have like raptidons pull up from like everywhere. They're just hiding somewhere. They might drop down from a roof. It's got that creepy feeling, and they do it so well throughout the whole game, like doing environmental storytelling in the open world. I don't like every single world. I think there are a couple too many worlds for me, but on the other side, design-wise, they all look different. None of them look the same. Fairfield, is more like green and lush. You have Cloister, which is pretty much just a snowy wasteland. You have Praetor, which is full of like electricity. There's like lightning and thunderstorms everywhere. Then you have the other planet, which is Golden Ridge, which is, the one where the Order has the monastery. That is more of like a mining planet, it looks like, with a bunch of like crystals, and it looks especially beautiful at night because you have like glowing crystals everywhere. It's really, like, visually, it's really good. And then the other ones you have is just space stations. It's the free market, it's the ship of the Auntie's Choice, and then the other one is like Horizon Point when you get to it, and another space station, which is part of the quest line for Tristan. They're just space stations. They're not that special, but the planets actually, they're something I remembered, and I actually remembered the names of the planets after playing the game, which is another thing that usually doesn't happen, and I can remember the name of the planet and how it looks. But those are kind of like the recaps of my adventure with The Outer Worlds 2. As I said, there are little problems, little details that just kind of tear at the big picture. One of them, again, being the companions and the fact that whatever you do with them kind of gets neglected if you do something messed up after their companion quests, and how the ending changes even though you've completed their whole quest line, but they did leave your team at the end. So it's got its flaws here and there. It's got its good parts. There were certain parts where I was just fuming at the combat because it was so annoying. But at the same time, when I got to a point where my sneak was really high, I got the right sniper rifle. I was basically just running through places, well, sneaking through places and taking them all out in just seconds. It is such a fun and satisfying gameplay. I just had one problem with the aim, like if you're aiming down the scope, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the auto lock that the game has, like the target auto lock, but I would like try and aim at an enemy and the sight would always move like to the left, and I just shoot into midair and it'd be so random. Like it happened a couple of times and it wasn't like stick drift on my controller. It was just the game moving the stick, and I thought it might be like an auto lock feature that they have that just decided to spaz out. But all in all, is it a great experience? It is. Is it a good RPG? Yes. Would I play it again right now? No, but that's also like my personal thing right now. There was so many points that kind of did annoy me about the game, but would I play it again, when the dust has settled? I would play it again maybe in a year from now. As I said, when the dust settles, when, maybe the first DLC comes out, I would replay the game, but not right now. But I cannot say that this was a bad game. So let's actually get to rank it on our tier list and give you my final verdict on the game. Alrighty, here we are in our good old tier list, back to reviewing The Outer Worlds 2 after completion. Now, as you can see, The Outer Worlds 1 has placed in the great games category, and I think The Outer Worlds 2 will join The Outer Worlds 1 in the great tier. I think it is better than The Outer Worlds 1 by a long shot. Hey guys, editing me here. I actually do have to go back and refresh my rating here. I've had a couple of days to actually think about how I ranked the game, which I had ranked it just after playing through it. And I've had a couple of days to actually think about it, to really consider what I would rank The Outer Worlds 2 and 1 at the same time. And I've also kind of reworked my tier list since then. We've changed a couple of things here and there. So I'm gonna actually show you what it looks like now. Again, I think The Outer Worlds 2 is still a really good RPG. It does have a lot of flaws. I think The Outer Worlds 1 is a good RPG, but I don't think it goes into the great RPG tier like just yet. I think it's on par with a Fallout 3, a Mass Effect 1 for me, a Dark Souls 3, Dragon Age Inquisition. I think in the it's good tier, it's actually fitting. So I just want to redeem that point and tell you that that's where The Outer Worlds 2 and 1 both are going to be placed from now on. And with that, we come to an end for this episode of The Best RPG. If you did enjoy, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below as well how you like this new change up of the format. Also, let me know in the comments below, guys, Is there any RPG I need to check out next? Heads up as well, the next episode is going to be Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon. We started that game before the Outer Worlds 2 actually came out and before Pokemon Legends CA came out. So we're going to jump back into that game. That's about it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, guys, have a beautiful rest of your day. Good night, whatever time it is for you, and we're out. Peace.